because I think, as you know, my background is in public health, right? I've led the public health committee, led the substance use recovery, mental health and recovery committee as well. So I know these issues, pretty deeply. What's contained in the bill are very important safeguards. There's no discounts after 10 p.m. Drink prices must be fixed during the promotion period. There has to be advanced posting requirements, and all of this is done around, to get at public safety. At its core, right, our small businesses, our restaurants, our bars are really struggling in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are seeing a real change in how people are using their downtowns, using our main streets. And Massachusetts continues to be only one of 8 states that continue to prohibit happy hour drink specials. The landscape has changed dramatically since 1984, when the happy hour ban was put in place as a good public health measure. Before, Mr. Chair, you and I were even born, many of us were born. We have since implemented strict penalties, enforced the national drinking age, mandated seatbelt laws, and witnessed the rise of ride-sharing services that have really helped Massachusetts have one of the lowest rates of drunk driving in the country. We've seen several states of different kind of compositions, Illinois, Indiana, and Kansas, all in the last decade repealed our happy hour bans. They saw no meaningful increase in traffic-related fatalities, traffic incidents, drunken driving, any of the sort of public health things that we would be concerned about. So I think from a public health perspective, as someone who has deep expertise in leadership in public health, I really feel confident that this would not be a public health risk. If you actually even look at alcohol consumption among younger generations, it's actually lower than it was when you and I were in our 20s, and when some of our colleagues, certainly in the 80s, were as well. But this really is about giving options to our small businesses and restaurants. This is a local option. That means that a municipality has to decide if they want to offer happy hour, if they even want to offer alcohol, right? I represent several dry communities in Martha's Vineyard where you can't even buy, there aren't even liquor stores, right? So I understand, representing places as diverse as Chilmark to Provincetown, arguably the most fun town in Massachusetts, right? The towns want to determine their own destiny here. So it's a local option. There's a whole host of important safeguards. And really, I see this as a tool, as someone who spent more years of my life working in a restaurant. I think, as you know, my family owned a seasonal restaurant on Cape Cod for 28 years. I spent more years of my life waiting on tables, tending bar, working behind the line. And when you look at the margins of restaurants, at least small family-owned restaurants, maybe not the big corporate ones represented by our friends at the Mass Restaurant Association, right? The most expensive item in a restaurant, right? The place where you are losing the most money is on food, right? Your biggest costs in a restaurant are your food and then your labor. So if you're trying to get people in the door with a discount, say on, I don't know, oysters or chicken wings or you name it, right? The amount of labor and time that it takes to purchase that food, to shuck those oysters, to fry those chicken wings, is quite costly. The area in a restaurant, in a bar, where the margins are the highest is alcohol, right? Markups on alcohol are anywhere between 6 to 8 times the markup. That's where the margin is, and that's actually where, why we've seen businesses across the country and in Massachusetts before 1984 offer happy hour, right? Because this is something that, unlike other inputs that you can discount to get people in the door, alcohol, beer, wine, liquor, doesn't actually affect your bottom line, certainly as much as others. I just want to comment a little bit on the testimony earlier that basically said, that if we were to allow local option happy hour, this would force, restaurants would be, quote, forced to compete. I believe, since I last checked, we're still in a semi-free market. We still should be, I really believe we should be incentivizing, enabling small businesses to try to get people in the door. I can tell you, in my neck of the woods, we probably wouldn't offer happy hour here at the Provincetown Brewing Company in July and August. It's just so busy. But for a place that wants to stay open year-round, for a place that, keeping your doors open year-round here is tremendously difficult. The proprietors of this business would love the ability to have a happy hour, say, on Sundays in the off-season, right, from November to April. That would help get people in the door. That would help them keep their doors open when many of our restaurants and bars that stay open year-round here on Cape Cod and the islands operate at a loss if they're operating in the off-season. So this is about innovation. This is about allowing creativity. This is not a mandate. This is an option that you could pursue as a business. And then I just want to finally close on this. I think we are doing so much well in Massachusetts. We have the #1 economy in the country, #1 in education and healthcare, so much that we're doing right. But what we have is we have an affordability crisis, largely led to our failure because of our failure on housing. We also have a bit of a fun crisis. I was here in Provincetown all weekend. Scores of people come here, and all I heard, the refrain I constantly hear, these are largely from LGBTQ people, but some pretty cool folks, is just how boring Boston is, how boring Massachusetts is. Provincetown really, I think, is a bit of an exception. I think we're I'm gonna have some hometown pride and say we're, I think, among the most fun places in Massachusetts. And part of that, right, is we have opportunities like Tea Dance, right, which is one of the greatest, the drinks aren't discounted, but one of the greatest sort of happy hours, in the world. We have shows, we have entertainment. And I think really what we have in Massachusetts is we're hungover from a series of very classist and racist policies as it relates to alcohol consumption. The reason why Massachusetts broadly has such restrictive provisions on alcohol really has to do with our predecessors, our Brahmin predecessors, trying to restrict new immigrants and having access to bars and restaurants and pubs. A lot of that was directed at Irish immigrants at the time. And I think really we're hung over from a series of classist and racist policies when it comes to alcohol consumption that we're still grappling with. I remember the days when I could only, when I was still waiting on tables on Sunday brunch, right? And you couldn't even serve a drink on Sunday. So we've gone a long way to liberalizing that. We've also legalized and liberalized cannabis. I can walk down the street and go to 4 dispensaries. You can gamble to your heart's desire, whether online or in casinos, and I just think it's high time to have happy hour. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to testify today. Thank you for the time. I went a little over those 3 minutes. Delighted to answer any questions you may have. Also give you a tour of the Provincetown Brewing Company if you'd like. Thank you, Mr. Chair.